Hi folks, welcome to the next episode of the Cricket Hotspot podcast, and this is your host Sarthak along with my friend and my co-host Parth. And today we'll be talking about India's awesome performance in the recently concluded test match against England. We'll be dissecting what exactly went wrong for India and what could have been the on-field, the off-field controversies and how they could have been avoided, or what could have been different about the entire match.
This test match will always remind me of the Sydney test in 2008, with the amount of controversy, with the amount of nonsensical controversy with the umpires and all the rest of the garbage that came with it.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting take on that. Actually, that match did bring a lot of controversies with it, with the catches and the umpiring decisions and whatnot. I think this one had its fair share of controversies, beginning with the Vaseline incident, with the England media or the England players accusing V.S. Lakshman of using Vaseline on his bat.
Yeah.
Well, not too vocally, but subtly hinting that it might have been the case.
Yeah. Let's first go over the match in general, how it happened, how it panned out, and then we'll go further into more further into the controversy.
Absolutely. Let's work that way then.
Yeah. Okay.
So just to sort of a recap of the match, for people who are not aware, I think the entire world is, but anyone who's been living under a rock and
or has gone to cricket for the last 5 days.
Has not, you mean?
Or has not, yes.
So India actually and won the toss. They had England on the mat with 124 for 8 on the first day at the stroke of tea, but went on to lose the match by 319 runs, which was by far one of the most amazing comebacks in recent memory by any team. So kudos to the English side, and the display was even more spectacular because of the Indian team's inability to stop their run flow or save their wickets.
Yes, and there was all through the test match, we saw a pattern of the lack of depth in all the formats, or in all the forms of cricket, batting, bowling and fielding in India, and the difference between the fitness of the two teams. There was a certain, shall we say, more experienced batting lineup and batting till 10 and maybe 11 you can say, because James Anderson is their night watchman. So very good batting lineup, and that's what we predicted in the earlier on. If Sehwag is not there, India will be caught napping, and so they have. Also, the bowling is definitely miles apart. You can say Harbhajan and Swan, not much difference in the last test. Both got terribly beaten, but the rest, there was a clear difference in the application. But surprisingly, India's catching has been a lot better than actually English catching. England has dropped many catches this match.
That's true, and
still won.
That's true, and I think what the major issue here is, the major glaring difference between the two teams is the Indian bowling attack's inability to take 20 English wickets. I think that is what's costing the match, and obviously not having crossed 300 once in the entire series also. So the batting is not to be let off the hook either.
I think the bowling has been more than what I had expected. They have bowled very well to what they have, the pace they have, the kind of ability they have, and the kind of experience they have in English conditions. They have bowled very well for that. It's just the batting that has not clicked. The batting, you expect a team with Sachin, Dravid, Lakshman, Raina to some extent, and Yuvraj to at least make 350 or 300, but it seems that whenever they have reached closer to it, there has been a collapse, whether it's DRS or whatever, a hat-trick, whatever. There is a huge collapse, and there's sort of an overconfidence that takes place in the Indian batting, which I don't think will win them any further series. If that has to stop.
Absolutely, and I think coming into the match, it was highly spoken about how the test match is going to be a test of the English bowling versus the Indian batting, which at the moment are the two best in their department, if we see on paper at least. But I think this far what we've seen is the English bowling has totally taken over the Indian batting, and it'll take a lot for, and as you said actually, it takes a lot for a team of Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar and V.S. Lakshman not to score 300 in a series. So that shows a definite lack of application on behalf of the Indian batsmen. And the way the English players played and to pile on 550 odd runs, that was definitely help for the batsmen if they stood there and just applied themselves.
Yeah. We'll talk about this match. Let's now go on to the 5 moments per day that we thought are key. And then while we are talking about those moments, we'll cover this match in more detail. As Sarthak said, at the stroke of tea, it was 124 for 8. And we saw Broad and Swan just taking apart Indian bowling, and that was so unexpected. And that has generally been the case in India's away tours. Bowlers do all the hard work, take early wickets, but what happens? The opposition tail-enders make runs, and India is on the back foot. So that was the big moment, I think, that changed the game and put India back from day one.
Was the partnership between Graham Swan and Stuart Broad, which actually seized the momentum for them.
Yeah.
Having been at 124 for 8 and then going on to score 225 odd runs, that with basically your last 2 wickets putting on 100 runs, it's an amazing comeback. And as we mentioned before, basically England doesn't really have a tail. With Graham Swan batting at number 10, that is absolutely
Bresnan in the team, they don't have a tail.
So they have 2 genuine all-rounders in Stuart Broad and Tim Bresnan, batting at 8 and 9 respectively, and then Graham Swan at number 10, which makes his batting actually one of the best in the world right now. Depth-wise.
Number 2, day 2, sorry.
Day 2 obviously has to be Broad's spell.
Yeah, I mean, taking the new ball and suddenly changing the complexion of the match. Although you will say Dravid's innings was one of the best. I generally don't like to say one of the best because it's very hard to compare. But his truly was a very good innings.
And absolutely, he stood there, applied himself, scored 100.
Yeah.
And no other batsman could get close.
Yeah. It's sort of good for an all-rounder that if you have some good runs, your bowling starts to improve. Suddenly there is swing. Suddenly you find the right length. Suddenly luck goes towards you. If nothing is happening, then nothing happens, and your catching drops, as we are seeing with Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Everything is just confidence-based in cricket. Your take?
I think you're absolutely right, because when it's not your day, the best ball will just go past the off stump but won't clip it.
Yeah.
But on your worst days, the best ball will go past the off stump but won't clip it.
Yeah.
But on your best days, even an inside edge will get you an LBW.
Yeah.
So it depends. If it's your day, it's your day.
And if BCCI is with you, there would be no DRS. Day 3. Obviously, there was the Bell incident, which we intend to talk more in detail in our second segment. But key moment in day 3?
The key moment in day 3, according to me, would be the partnership between Peterson and Bell. I think that laid the foundation for them to go on attack.
Yeah,
and in particular, I believe the third session on day 3 was the turning point, where they plundered 185 runs in the last session.
Yeah, that was just soul-wrenching, and you saw India just being defeated right there and then, and you knew that this match would not go anywhere except an English victory. Poor field placement from Dhoni. I mean, one of the worst exhibitions of field placements I've seen. There was no third man, and if Bell is on 100, 120, there is no point keeping 2 slips and a gully for a batsman so much in form. And your job there, I mean, India could have easily chased around 300 or 330 runs. There was around 150 runs were given extra, which should have been avoided. It shows that Dhoni is not in his game right now. He's not thinking the way we have seen him to think. Your take on that?
And that is why the rest of the 2 matches will be even more important for Dhoni, because till now, people have claimed that although he has skill, but he has had his fair share of luck.
Has he though?
I believe he has, and nothing wrong with that. If you have luck, but for you to capitalize on that is the most important part.
Well, Imran Khan was one of the best leaders at my view, and he had some luck against.
So absolutely, to be successful anywhere, you need luck, and there's no harm with that. And he has capitalized on that luck, which is the more important part. Yeah. But now is his real test to come back from 2-0 down in a 4-match series, and to see how the side does for the rest of the 2 games will be the true test of India's so-called number 1 test status.
Yeah, I think it is also important that he gets this 10-day break where he can actually think about his game and try to take tips from ex-Indian keepers who have actually played there. I think Farooq Engineer lives in England right now, and he has attended both the matches. So he's a good source for him to take some tips on. 185 runs, that's a lot of runs, and you saw that India were depleted day 4. Day 4, obviously, Dravid and Lakshman wicket, one after lunch and one before lunch, and there was no coming back from that.
It was a low point for the Indian bowling because they were again down to 3 bowlers with Harbhajan, although he didn't contribute much with the ball either, but he was out, and only 9 overs he could only contribute 9 overs to the game, and after that he was out with a side strain.
Yeah.
So we don't really know if that took a toll on the bowlers, because obviously 3 bowlers bowling an entire day is actually going to be really tough.
Yeah.
Be it English conditions or Indian conditions, does not matter. So that definitely had its effect, but the English batsmen were good enough to capitalize on that, and I think that's what made the difference between the 2 sides.
Your general take, now since we have analyzed the 5 days, your general take, is it bad luck of the lack of the amount of injuries, or is it lack of planning, or what is 2 or 3 reasons why we have seen such a low point in Indian cricket, and we are not used to seeing it for the last 2 years?
I think I read an article by Wasim Akram recently, one of his interviews, and he said the major issue here is lack of planning by the BCCI, and I kind of agree with him, because if you see, we played a series in West Indies, coming from there straight away to here, to England, I mean, and then 3 or 4 players coming out of cold, taking a break after IPL, and resting themselves, coming straight to play Test cricket at this level, in conditions which are not too familiar to you. I think that indicates a little sort of lack of foresight on the part of the BCCI.
But I still think that if Zaheer was fit, there was no chance they would have given 185 in the last session of day 3.
That again brings back to the point of probably too much cricket, or coming straight to play Test match cricket out of the cold. So it could be taken either ways.
Should they have a big pool of players? They should prepare. They should be test match specialist, ODI specialist, and T20 specialist. Although we have T20 specialists, but at least one day and test. I think Ishant Sharma and Zaheer Khan have to concentrate on Test cricket, unless there's a big tournament that, like the World Cup. You generally should not play these 2, in my opinion. I mean,
Ishant Sharma for sure. I agree with him. Agree with you about him, because he is basically a Test match bowler.
Yeah,
he needs to bowl those lengths, which are only good in Test matches.
Yeah.
But in one-day cricket, he does not work. So, as far as he's concerned, I'm with you. But I do not believe we have anyone else of Zaheer's caliber to take over in the one-day side.
I think Praveen Kumar and Manaf Patel are very good.
I don't think they are top-class one-day bowlers, though, and that makes a big difference.
I think Manaf is very good. Praveen Kumar can work on it, and we also have Sreesanth to work on that.
Against Sreesanth, I don't think he's a one-day bowler.
You can say that.
Going at an economy.
I agree with you on that, but certainly you need Zaheer Khan fit for your marquee Test series. The thing that saddens me on the whole series is that this was a marquee series, and we had predicted 2-1 for the. I predicted 2-1 England winning the series for this fact only, that we knew that Zaheer may not be fit, we knew things can happen, and we knew Sehwag wasn't there. And these things can be prevented. I mean, I don't know why IPL is given so much priority in Indian cricket, although it's an Indian product. But if there is a question of being number 1 in the best format of cricket, you have to give your players rest. If somebody is injured, no IPL. I mean, it's the presence of greed in our cricket that has really made sure that India doesn't perform well.
I think the clear answer here is too much cricket. that again comes up, and I do not believe that's a wrong thing to blame lack of performance in England on, because if you see India has been playing non-stop cricket before the World Cup,
Yes,
since before the World Cup.
Since September, they have been playing non-stop.
So that actually does take a lot of toll on your body.
Of course it does.
And again, comes down to the planning by the BCCI. They have to sit down. They have to see how much the players can take. And there is no point pushing players beyond the point of no return. Injuries will happen in that case. I do not believe asking a player not to play IPL and to lose out on all the money is the right way to go about it. They have to plan the international schedule accordingly. If they want an IPL window in between, they have to make sure there is no cricket at least 15-20 days before and 15-20 days after.
Yeah.
You cannot be jumping from the IPL to a test match series in the West Indies within a week and then come to England within a week after that series and expect to win. That is not going to happen.
One of the saddest things that I saw in last 1 year was the Indian team did not get to rejoice the World Cup win. 6 days right into the IPL. If you win a major tournament, well, the biggest tournament, you should have at least 15 days where you have the parade and everything, and the players get to enjoy the biggest cup in Indian cricket, which they weren't. So there's obviously lack of planning, and people are right, and India have to be blamed on that. But I say this series, the result could have been different. India just had bad luck with Sehwag and everything going bad for India. Now let's move on to our second segment. The second segment includes the controversies that were there during the match. I think this match will more be remembered of calling back of Bell on day 3 and other controversies. Certainly a great test match, but test cricket is nothing without controversies. It just made this match more memorable. The first controversy has been brewing throughout the series, and from the start of the series there is a clear divide between English media and the Indian media, and there's a clear sort of clashing of English ex-players and actually Indian ex-players. And I have certainly noticed it. I have been reading or listening to podcasts or listening to news. I have certainly noticed that there is a certain animosity. I think Ravi Shastri used the word jealousy, which I don't think is a right word to explain it, because we don't know. We don't know anything. But all we can know is there is a certain friction that is there because of the shift of balance of power, shift of resources from one continent to the other. And certainly the viewership is with the other continent, and there's a clash between MCC, the guardians of the game, and BCCI, who are now sort of portrayed as the big bullies. But there has been this controversy. Well, there was the Vaseline gate, and the players did not say anything. It was just two ex-players who started this. It was started by Vaughan, and it was, as you mentioned earlier on in the podcast, Lakshman's edge that he got, and it was not shown up in the hotspot. Vaughan wrote, has Vaseline on outside edge saved the day for Lakshman? Sort of implicating Lakshman there, don't you think?
Yeah, that is actually very a huge allegation for a person of Lakshman's caliber, and for Michael Vaughan to actually go on and say that on a public forum, mind you, Twitter, where absolutely nothing is going to be hidden.
Yeah.
That was, I think, sort of jumping the gun, sort of a little inappropriate for a person who's in charge of, or who's seen as an ambassador of cricket in England.
Yeah.
For him to say that,
well, he's an English captain, so
it only stirs. I don't know what the intent there was, to rile up the Indian camp or not. That could have been, But being a commentator, I think they should reserve the judgments to themselves. If he was not related to the English camp at all, presently he's free to make whatever comments he wants. But if the intent there was to rile up the Indian camp, I think he surely did a good job. And it also got the ex-players involved in it, fighting over the DRS issues.
The controversy between Shastri and Hussain with the hotspot and disgrace. BCCI is a disgrace for not having hotspot. Obviously, I know BCCI is a disgrace because of not having hotspot. For not having DRS. It's the whole DRS should be applied. But going on air and saying BCCI is a disgrace, people will go after you. And why create this controversy?
The other point here being that BCCI is not to be blamed entirely for the DRS fiasco, because it's the Indian players who themselves don't want it to be implemented. BCCI is relaying their message to the ICC, and they are holding up their stance because of the players. Now the players are fine with the ball with the DRS without the ball tracking technology, which was taken out because they didn't know if it was as reliable as it's made out to be. And still, I think if they test it further and if the players are comfortable with it, I'm pretty sure BCCI is going to adopt it. But for Nasser Hussain to go on and say that BCCI is a disgrace, that was, again, uncalled for. And I think the issue was sort of blown out of proportion when Ravi Shastri replied to him. And
do you agree with his reply?
That the English media is jealous of Indian cricket?
And jealous of IPL and the money that Indian players make and stuff.
Surely there has to be a little bit of jealousy or let's say a little bit of discontent amongst the English media and the English ranks, because as we mentioned earlier, the power has slowly shifted from the guardians of the game, which is the MCC, towards the subcontinent, but the BCCI is now the financial hub. India draws in most viewers for their matches, and this is where most of the players come to earn their money, be it IPL or be it any other marquee series involving India.
So there is jealousy.
So definitely, since the power is shifting or has already shifted to the subcontinent, there is obviously that discontent amongst the players or on the media itself, at least.
Second controversy, I think the biggest controversy was the bell run out. Day 3, important phase, although I think by that time India had lost hope. But day 3, it was a crucial moment. Should he have been given out?
I don't think India had lost hope by then, because the lead was only 250 or 300 odd.
But the way they were playing like dejected players at that time.
That's fine, but the point here being that should he have been called back or not? And I think initially I was against the decision because he was given out by the umpires, and who is anyone to question the decision that the umpire makes? If the umpires gave him out, that was within the laws of the game, it was out. I mean, you have to walk. You cannot sit there and cry about it. You are not the one. And I think every ex-player, be it Indian or English, has come in support or has come out against Ian Bell for crying out loud. And for his decision to actually, and Strauss and Andy Flower's decision to go and request the Indian camp to reverse the decision. In hindsight, I do feel it's the right thing to do, although initially I said I was against it, because now it maintains...
A precedent has been set.
A precedent has been set, and the thing is, for the rest of the series, the tension levels might be a little more contained than they would have been. If you look back to the Australia series, as we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, the 2008 Sydney test, of how the rest of the series turned out because of that one particular incident, I think it's good that it was nipped in the bud, and now we can concentrate on cricket and good cricket itself, rather than thinking about all the mini battles and the controversies within the game. And it's a good thing that that the focus has been taken off from these things and should be back to cricket.
There was talk about spirit of cricket, but I think the advocates for not walking have this exact reply or argument to follow, that they follow spirit of cricket, is that you do not go against the will of the umpire. If actually umpire gives you out, you're out. And people say that Dhoni was too light on the English for not he was out, he should have been given out, and why did he do it like that? But I think it was good in the sense that it showed that India is not a bully, and if we do not go to the worst accesses to win a match, and game became sort of better for it. You sort of felt proud as a cricket lover, not as and not just an Indian fan, but as a cricket lover. And also there was a certain smack on the face of Strauss, who didn't allow for actually Graham Smith in the Champions Trophy, talking about spirit of cricket and running. So that was also a statement made by Dhoni, I think. My take on certainly was that Dhoni became a better man for it, but he should have been out, and he should have and he should have walked off. Bell shouldn't have even come back. He said, umpire gave me out, I will be out. I don't want to come back.
I think the reason why I support the decision now is because whatever happens from now on can be looked at for if India go on and say play better in the next two matches, and if they end up winning one of or either any of those matches, it'll take away the focus from this bitter incident that which it could have been to the game itself, what India has done or will do on the field, rather than everyone focusing on this incident. So moving on to our moment of the week now. The moment of the week that we've chosen for you guys this episode is the 1981-82 Ashes, which marked the turn of Ian Botham into a genuine all-rounder. England actually went on to win the series 3-1, but it'll be remembered for Botham's fireworks both with the ball and the bat.
It was the famous Headingley match that happened last week in actually 1981, but this week was the Edgbaston Test, the fourth test, where we saw Botham's heroics, and we chose this moment of the week because it is sort of a rise of a certain all-rounder who has the capability of taking England to a next level. That is Stuart Broad, who performed very well in this. So sort of a comparison and how it was good. Botham really changed. I mean, that series is called Botham series, and that Headingley Test is called Botham Test simply because England had no hopes of winning that series, because they had already lost the first match and the second was drawn. So it was typical of a man who could do nothing wrong. The captaincy was taken away from him. The actual pressure was off of him, but he performed like a champion, and that was his career highlight, and it will be talked in the English history for a long time to come.
Yeah, and that ties in with the recently concluded match between India and England, of where I think the game was sealed by two all-rounders from the English team, namely Stuart Broad and Tim Preston. Broad obviously for his 64 in the first innings and 6 wickets while bowling, and Preston took over in the second innings, scoring a 90 and taking a 5-wicket haul.
And it was not just a 5-wicket haul. He bombarded the Indian batsmen with bouncers, and it really tested how vulnerable Indian batsmen are against the short pitch.
And this brings up an interesting selection issue for them for the next game. Should they retain Preston or bring back Tremlett? Because Preston gives them the added batting option.
Drop Swan.
That would be a bold move on their part if they do it.
In my opinion, they should.
We'll cover that in more detail in the next episode when we talk about the preview for the fourth test.
Yeah. This brings us to the end of our fourth podcast, which as we can see, we completed 1 month. So it was definitely a project that we started, and it was
hooray.
Yes. Yes. And then, as Sarthak said, next week more preview for the third test, another moment of the week, and until that time, do like us on Facebook, email us with any questions. The email is questions@thecrickethotspot.com. Follow us on Twitter, Cricket Hotspot. and hope to see you guys next week. Any feedback is appreciable. Enjoy your week off for not watching cricket.
Yes, guys, please do keep the feedbacks and the comments coming, and we'll make sure that we include them in the show and make it tailored to your taste as much as we can.
Yes.
So hope to see you guys next week.
Yes.
Till then, goodbye. Take care.
Yes, till then, goodbye from me, Parth.